Morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to your Board of Supervisors. As Claudia and Uciel make their way up, I want to thank you again for coming. And before I go into reading the proclamation, I want to thank Amistades for their decades of community leadership. I have known the Hasso family since I was 14 years old, when I was part of a substance abuse prevention campaign through the governor's office, when I was on the youth commission. And Segundo de Febrero is an annual tradition that Amistades has honored in our community for many years now. And I want to especially congratulate the superintendent of the Sunnyside Unified School District for his recent award, Jose Gastelum, as the Segundo de Febrero Award, Community Leadership Award recipient. So it's good to see you, Ms. Hasso and Mr. Barrios. I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation now. Whereas on February 2nd, 1848, why don't you hold that? Whereas on February 2nd, 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed, marking a pivotal moment in the history of the United States and Mexico, reshaping the cultural and geographical landscapes of North America. And whereas, while the treaty ceded lands that make up most of today's U.S. Southwest, it also granted U.S. citizenship to the Mexican citizens living in that territory, creating a new ethnic identity, Mexican American. And whereas Mexican Americans comprise the largest indigenous ethnic group in the United States, representing nearly 40 million people, and whereas we acknowledge the historical roots with the people of Mexico, and that we are only separated by a border. And whereas February 2nd, 1848 symbolizes the birth of a new identity for Mexican Americans, and our legacy lies in our determination to preserve culture, language, traditional values, and honor as a people who have survived and thrived in the face of marginalization and discrimination. And whereas this day honors the vital role Mexican Americans have played in building and strengthening the fabric of this nation, reshaping the U.S. economy and society, creating art, serving in times of war, and advocating for civil rights and labor reforms. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims Monday, February 2nd, 2026, to be Mexican American Heritage Day in Pima County, to continue fostering greater understanding and unity in a diverse America, and thereby enhance recognition of the history and cultures that the American people hold in common, passed and adopted this third day of February 2026. Let's give a round of applause to Amistades. And to my dear friend Claudia Hasso, would you like to make a few remarks, please?
Good morning, Supervisor Cano. Thank you so much for your leadership. And that is a true story. I have known Andres, and then the family has known Andres for quite some time now. And his leadership throughout the years has just been so inspiring to me personally and to our organization. Thank you to the Board of Supervisors, Chair Allen. This is something that's very important to our heritage and our culture. And Amistades is a nonprofit organization that is grounded in cultural preservation. We do health equity work across the state, and especially here in Pima County in Southern Arizona. So thank you very much. And I look forward to celebrating this in future years.
We are now going to move on to call to the public. I'll note that we had a request for a telephonic speaker. We have tried to reach that person several times and we're unable to connect with her. We have more than 20 speakers. And so what that means is that we, instead of going to, when it's less than 20 speakers, everybody gets 3 minutes. If it's more than 20 speakers, everybody gets 2 minutes. So we're at the 2-minute mark, just so if you're planning to speak, adjust your comments accordingly. I will read our statement. So citizens attending the meeting shall observe rules of propriety, decorum, and good conduct. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who become boisterous while addressing the board may be removed by the sergeant at arms if directed by the chair. Such person may be barred from further audience before the board. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stamping of feet, whistling, yells, and similar demonstrations shall not be permitted by the chair, who may direct offenders from the hearing room. So with that, and I'll call up in clumps of 3, and feel free to come on up and take the seats so that we can move along quickly. And these front seats are reserved for people who are planning to speak. So our first speaker is Kristen Downing, followed by Roland Baker, and then followed by Susanna Hughes. Come on up to right on up to the podium. And make sure to adjust the mic so that it gets you.
I think I'm good. Madam Chair and Board of Supervisors, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Kristen Downing. I have lived in Marana Community, specifically District 1, for almost 21 years. I'm also one of the organizers with Pima Resist ICE, or PRICE. First and foremost, I want to thank you today for considering the resolution and for spending time on this important conversation. PRICE has a petition we put out that has over 1,400 signatures against the detention center, so clearly it's an issue that the community wants to talk about. Last fall, when I first heard about the potential ICE detention center, I could not stop thinking about all the people around me. As I went about my daily errands, I looked around and I wondered what our beautiful neighborhoods and thriving businesses would turn into. Would our streets be filled with buses full of our kidnapped neighbors and friends going past? Would people feel safe leaving their homes to go to the dog park or to church? Would the cashier at the grocery store feel safe to come into work? Our community would no longer thrive and our daily lives would be irreparably damaged, because the fact is, when an ICE detention center opens, ICE's presence within that community increases exponentially. And with that, the violence and racist practices they employ would become rampant throughout our community. An ICE detention center would also be catastrophic for our economy. Housing values would decrease, retail sales would go down, and restaurants and hotels would also suffer, because Marana would become the next prison town, much like Florence and Eloy, and people would not be rushing to come and see all that our community has to offer. We must protect our community and all of Southern Arizona by doing all we can to stop this detention center from opening. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I like saying that. Vice Chair Hines, Supervisors Christie, Cano, and Scott. Thank you for allowing me to be here again. My name is Roland Baker. I'm back. So I want to talk to you about 21, 22, and 23. For 21, that's the ordinance to protect Pima County property for all of our siblings to be safe from abduction and kidnapping. We do not live in North Korea, although if I were to close my eyes, it seems this way. I am a part of Rapid Response, and I've seen personally what ICE and Border Patrol have done to the people of this town and this county. Shame on us. Vote yes on this ordinance. As far as 22, only illegal people wear masks and refuse to show who they are and not show their badges, nor say what law enforcement they are with. I urge you to vote yes on banning the use of masks and all law enforcement officers to wear their IDs. That's the least that they can do. And then for 23, as a member of PRICE, Pima Resist ICE, I urge you and implore you to please vote on this resolution. It will help us significantly, as we have been talking to the Marana Town Council for quite a long time, to not allow the detention center to be open. We cannot have that in our county. We cannot have that in the city of Marana. As my esteemed friend here, Kristen, just spoke of, those are the very reasons. And as a member of Rapid Response, I have seen what happens to our people who live here in the city of Tucson. I have seen them being torn out of their homes, torn out of their cars, the windows being broken, doors being broken down. We cannot have that kind of hate happening here in the county or here in Marana. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Savannah, by the way.
Oh,
That's
sorry.
important to this. Okay. So I'm here to speak on agenda numbers 21, 22, and 23. To begin, I would like to make note that I have stated my name for public record, and I stand here unmasked because I take pride in what I am doing. Choosing to make ICE agents carry out their operations unmasked and with clear identification, as I am now, would hold them accountable to that same standard. We are being told by our current president that these ICE agents are being deployed here to protect us, but it has been proven on a nationwide scale that they do not respect or uphold the law, and they are a violent threat to all of the communities they are present in. And I stress that that is not my personal opinion. We have all seen the footage of the violence with our own eyes. I both thank and applaud you for opposing the Marana Detainment Center. The actions we have seen from ICE agents when they are knowingly being filmed in public can lead us all to visualize how they could be treating both children and adults when they are not. Choosing to ban ICE from enforcing their agenda on county property would be another monumental step towards the protection of our families, children, co-workers, neighbors, and friends. ICE has shown countless times why they do not deserve power or access to their fellow man. I am asking you as our representatives to ask yourselves, why should ICE agents be able to continue their acts of brutality from behind a mask? Why do they deserve the right to have such unlimited access to our community, putting your families, children, co-workers, neighbors, and friends at risk when they have shown they do not respect the law or the overall right of human beings? Decisions being made to limit ICE are starting to create an inspirational ripple effect across the nation, and I am putting my faith in you to continue taking pride in our country and to be among the ones who loved it enough to truly protect the people and restore our faith in the government's ability to do so.
Thank you. And then our next three speakers are Lori Moore, Sherry Ruther, and Caroline Isaacs.
Good morning. My name is Laurie Moore, law-abiding citizen living in unlawful Pima County. Time flies. Just a short while ago, then Chairwoman, now Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva and her colleagues sponsored 600,000 of 20 million unvetted illegals across our border. Every man, woman, and child was given a $5,000 cash card and sent on their way. What could possibly go wrong? I wonder if even one of those unvetted military-age men traveling with children could have been a sex trafficker. Back then, Adelita and the board insisted absolutely no street releases. Unknowns will stay no more than 2 or 3 days in Tucson and be flown out. Remember that? Fast forward to today, and the roundup of the criminally undocumented is nothing but street releases in Tucson and other blue cities. Mayor Romero, the council, and Laura Conover clearly want criminals protected, not us. I am suggesting a 9 p.m. curfew be instated to keep law enforcement safe. Protesters can march until 9 in the streets, and the feds have a job to do, and they should be able to do it without people yelling, spitting, or running over them in cars. Either release the undocumented criminal safely to one agent from jail or enforce a common sense curfew. Moving on to the 418-419 tax. One part of it is portrayed as free bus service for the homeless. This will cost a fortune in dollars and human life by enabling drug addicts to get to their dealers faster. So from possibly aiding in child sex trafficking, authorizing dangerous street releases of criminally undocumented illegals, and encouraging a more efficient way to access drugs with free bus transportation, this board is not making Tucson great again. I have one request. Within about a week, I would like to be provided with the names, locations of the 144 funded preschools in the city of Tucson, as well as the number of alleged attendees. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you. Sherry Ruther.
Chair Ellen, members of the board, good morning. By way of introduction, I was your first environmental planning manager, hired 24 years ago to work with the development of environmental communities and finding ways to advance land use projects that maintain project economic viability and protected site and regional biological integrity. Many of those projects came to the board for final approval. That assignment and various permutations thereof was the meat of my job until I retired in 2024. It's that perspective that brings me here today. After reading the county administrator's January 23rd, 2026 memo to you regarding planned SDCP celebrations, which in my opinion speaks primarily about the environmental accomplishments, I'm encouraging you to go a little farther and acknowledge the full breadth of what the SDCP promised and what's been delivered. The SDCP is about more than just conserving our natural and cultural resources. It's a balancing act. The promise and challenge 25 years ago was how to conserve those resources while promoting the community's economic viability. I believe the county has done an amazing job doing both while not sacrificing either. And that's worth tooting your horn about. It's also critical for the SDCP's future that the successors of the SDCP stakeholders 25 years ago see the proof that no one's ox got gored and that Pima County has a pretty decent approach to a community win-win-win, as opposed to the days of yore when there was never a winner without a loser. While talking about the conservation accomplishments, why not simultaneously disclose the economic related activity that occurred? A simple example, talk about the 260,000 acres that the county conserved and pair that with the number of acres that were developed. I think you perhaps get the idea about looking for presenting both sides of the coin. So I urge you to brag a little bit more on delivering the fullness of what the SDCP promised, balancing the economic viability and conservation, because that's a lot of good news to share. Thank you.
Caroline Isaacs.
Good morning, Chair Allen, supervisors. My name is Caroline Isaacs. I'm the Executive Director of Just Communities Arizona. We're a proud member of PRICE, supporting community members from Marana to oppose private prison company MTC's plans to open an immigrant detention center in their community. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank the Pima Board of Supervisors for the actions you are poised to take today to shield Southern Arizona communities from the campaign of terror and occupation the federal government has unleashed on cities like Portland and Minneapolis. Thank you for standing up to a bully. Thank you for using the authority you have to be on the side of those most impacted by these racist and dangerous policies. Thank you for demanding the most basic level of accountability and transparency, making the enforcers show us their faces. Thank you for listening to the community and standing with us to say no to an ICE detention center in Marana. Your constituents and neighbors are terrified and overwhelmed, and we are angry, and we are tired of watching the people we elected to represent our interests turn away and say there's nothing they can do. The mayor of Marana has told us he's more afraid of a lawsuit from a rich and powerful prison corporation than he is of the harassment, intimidation, and mass detention of the people of his town. I am glad that you are not afraid. I'm grateful that you are willing to stand up and fight with us. And I hope that your courage gives courage to the Marana Town Council and the elected leaders in Surprise and all of the other communities that are slated to become staging grounds or internment camps. And I hope they see this and know that there is always something we can do to take care of and protect each other. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Debbie, and pardon my mispronunciation, is it Debbie Fricks? Frick. Then we'll have JP Salvatierra and Robert Royce. Come right on up.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Debbie Frick. This is my first time at a Pima County Board of Supervisors meeting. And I am a resident of Pima County, living in District 4. I'm here to speak in opposition of an ICE detention center in Marana and in support of banning the use of masks by so-called law enforcement. Reports are there are currently over 73,000 people in concentration centers, 16 processing facilities, and 7 warehouse-style concentration centers like in Dilley, Texas. Last night, St. Louis, Missouri mayor was interviewed and said that an Amazon warehouse was being eyed by ICE for use as a concentration center. The warehouse is located by railroad tracks. The historical reference to history should not escape anyone. The mayor and council of St. Louis have signed a resolution against this and are prepared to defend it in court. I ask you to do the same. No detention camps, no mass goons in Pima County. ICE out.
Mr. Salvatierra.
Chair Allen, board members, Administrator Lesher. Now is the time for all Americans to come to the aid of their nation. And this is totally on a democratic level. This is bipartisan. This means that our precedents in law, our basic human rights, the integrity of everyone that sits before me at this table is sacrosanct to me. These are things that we're taught from our childhood, and they're a part of our existence, a humanitarian ethic. That lends itself to transparency in all our actions, a humanitarian ethos. Now, what we really would like to see is independence and interdependence from the state, city, and county level to take over the activities of TEP and Fortis permanently. Permanently. We have the legal clout, we have the expertise, and we have a determination to make this work. It's highly important, and not using any of our non-disclosure agreement stuff. That's inappropriate for our mission statement. Everything that allows itself to be a part of our honesty and faith and trust in one another needs to come up front and sound off. We have a change in our lives, and we need to acknowledge that we need to represent all our values as human beings and Americans. Thank you.
And I will also announce the 3 speakers following Mr. Royce. It's Faith Elwes, Laura Silva, and Adam Levison. Mr. Royce.
I'm Robert Royce. We've got about 20 people here expressing mostly my opinions on the immigration situation, so I don't need to touch on that today. And my comprehensive immigration reform plan is too complex to even mention in a 2-minute format. When I moved back here, before I moved back to Tucson in 2001, I spent the previous 20 years in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where we had a countywide sales tax, which was payable to the entity which collected it, either the county or the various municipalities. Here in Arizona, we don't have that right. 5 of you can lay a penny or a half penny on the entire county, including the city of Tucson, which would collect about 60% of it for county uses. Tucson pays for most of its expenses with the sales tax. The county uses a property tax, which is laid on everybody. Meanwhile, some of the most prosperous people in the county, in the foothills, pay no sales tax at all, which is not right. Basically, my plan will allow, I mean, it needs legislative enablement, but my plan will allow us to have an Arkansas-style countywide sales tax where all of the unincorporated collections go to the county and the various municipalities collected for their own use. And I've been promoting this now for almost 25 years. No one is listening to me. But once the RTA goes down, you've got nowhere else to go. There is no other plan. Thank you very much.
Faith Elwes. Please correct my mispronunciation.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you. Hi, I'm not quite as tall. My name is Faith Elwes. This is my first time speaking. Thank you all for having us and allowing us to speak because speech is kind of questionable right now. So thank you for the opportunity. I'm not just a resident of Pima County. I'm a resident of Marana, and I moved here in 2006. I am stating absolutely, I'm opposed to a detention center being bought anywhere in the country as it was laid out earlier. I don't believe a detention center is what these are. I believe these are concentration camps. I don't believe we're going after the worst of the worst. I think this is about, in the long run, more than detaining people and any one of us who can become the other. I'm white by birth. I get privilege for that, for doing nothing. I am a progressive woman, which will make me a target, which we don't ever think that's going to happen. This is about, in the long run, this is about suppression of voting coming up. This is about fear, intimidation, keeping people afraid, making our communities unsafe, not safe. My family came here in the Revolutionary War. My father served at Pearl Harbor and survived. He would die again if he could see this. I just want to be clear about this. I do not support this. My community of other progressive, like-minded women in Marana do not support this. All of our supporting families do not support this. Thank you for the opportunity to say no to this and protect our communities. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Hi, my name is Laura Silva. I'm a Tucson City and a Pima County resident. I would like to thank the Board of Supervisors for discussing items 21, 22, and 23 today. I strongly support passing ordinances to protect all of us in Pima County against abuses by federal immigration agencies, as well as preventing personal and property casualty due to negligence and ham-handed unconstitutional shows of force. On item 21, an ordinance to prevent Pima County is needed to protect us from damage and liability, protect people from injury and death, from a rogue bureaucracy, and also protect county property from damage that federal agencies will not remedy, driving up our insurance costs. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement typically does not reimburse cities or counties for property damage incurred during operations. Instead, local governments and private property owners will face the high costs themselves, and claims made under the Federal Tort Claims Act would be a long, difficult process with a very low likelihood of success. On item 22, law enforcement is a failure if the population cannot ascertain whether a masked unidentified individual is a public safety employee or a criminal. We need our elected officials to prioritize public safety over political agendas and unconstitutional power plays. On item 23, ICE should not be building or acquiring more detention space. The purpose of our immigration system is not to warehouse people, waste our taxpayer dollars, feed a private prison industry that donates to political candidates, or engage in cruel and unusual punishment of people. The solution is reform, which needs to be legislated by Congress. Our community, in the meantime, rejects being an ICE dumping ground. Thank you for working for all of us and your leadership for protecting us. Thank you.
Thank you. Before Mr. Adam Lebison speaks, I want to flag the next three speakers, Karen McDonald, Charles Russell, and Omar Fernandez. And if you could come up and wait.
Yes, hello, my name is Adam Levison, Pima County resident from Green Valley. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask a question, but I will. I actually know Jenilyn Lozana, the woman who was going to make the telephonic statement. So I've completely changed what I want to say, and I want to summarize her point, which I think is really valid. And her entire point is well worth a read. And am I allowed to somehow enter that into the record? I have it in PDF on my phone.
Yeah, you can submit it, email it to us, or if you have a copy of it, you can share.
Okay, so I'll figure out how to do that. But just to summarize what her point was, it gets reported frequently that the resolution against the Marana, I guess it is, facility it's just symbolic. It's just a formality. It doesn't really mean anything, has no force of law. It may not have the force of law, but I would really dispute, or so would Jenilyn, that it's just quote unquote symbolic. And she urges everybody here to put some real teeth into it by influencing all the departments in county government and state government and beyond to take what is, after all, the county's official position, if you adopt the resolution, and turn it into an all of government action from every department. You have tremendous power in land use, permitting, intergovernmental contracts, and all kinds of things. So if at the department level and the daily activities level, you back up what the resolution says, you can stop that ICE facility in its tracks. And we urge you to do so. Thank you.
Karen McDonald, please.
Good morning, Chair Allen, Supervisors, Administrator Lesher. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. I'm Reverend Karen MacDonald. I'm a minister in the United Church of Christ and a resident of Tucson, District 5. You'll be considering important issues today, including the potential ICE detention center in Marana and how ICE may or may not operate in our community. I speak to the moral heart of these issues. Every religion across the globe and people of good conscience everywhere have a version of what we commonly call the golden rule: you shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. In the Christian faith that I hold, we strive to live by Jesus' teaching that whatever we do to the least of these, our sisters and brothers, we do to him. In opposition to these golden moral standards, the leaders and agents of ICE are violently targeting immigrants and citizens, people who speak a language other than English, people who speak with an accent different than the common accent. They are brutalizing people, exercising their constitutional right to peacefully protest. Their attitude, their actions are far beyond the guardrails of our Constitution, far beyond the rules of law, and beyond the bounds of moral decency. To refuse to stand for the least of these, our brothers and sisters, would be to shirk our moral responsibility and diminish our own spirits as individuals and a community. So I urge you to adopt the resolution by concerned citizens opposing a federal detention center in Marana, and to approve the proposals by your colleague, particularly that which would prohibit ICE from carrying out its unlawful and immoral activities on county property. I thank you. Peace be with us and through us.
Charles Russell. Charles Russell. The real Charles Russell.
Oh, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having us today. I'm not part of any group or organization. I am a veteran who took an oath to defend and support the Constitution 25 years ago, and I felt compelled to come today. We've heard many comments along the same track opposing ICE and their activities in this county. And I would just urge this board to specifically for 21 and 22. When you adopt a resolution or create a resolution, put some teeth to it to hold these ICE people accountable for their actions. Give our county sheriff and our local police departments and prosecutors the tools necessary to ensure that these ICE goons pay the price for breaking the law, for trampling the Constitution, for murdering people on the street. That's all I have. Thank you.
And then before Omar Fernandez speaks, I want to call up Audrey Perryman, Simone Holiday, and Mitchell Anderson. So Mr. Fernandez.
Hi, I'm going to talk as a scientist, resident of Tucson, and an immigrant that swore an oath of fealty to the Constitution. So plenty has been said about the humanitarian concerns around the current deportation operations. However, supporters of mass deportation often see themselves as defenders of the law. But it increasingly appears that these immigration enforcement agencies like CBP and ICE are the actual sources of rampant lawlessness. The cold-blooded execution of Alex Pretty, a nurse who cared for veterans, shot multiple times in the back while exercising his First Amendment rights, is one of many examples. Under this administration, not only have courts repeatedly rebuked CBP and ICE for unlawful operations, but the people themselves, as shown with the widespread protests in the country. The situation has deteriorated so badly that the administration demoted its own hand-picked commander-at-large of Border Patrol, Gregory Bovino. I fear that if this county does not stand up to this invading force of lawlessness, it risks becoming complicit in unlawful conduct that harms the community. The dehumanizing language of calling some immigrants illegals is a distraction from the real criminal behavior, that of mass deportation itself.
Our next speaker is Audrey Perryman.
Good morning, Supervisors and Chair Allen. Thank you for holding this forum for us to come discuss our feelings. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's very afraid of public speaking, but I think many of us are much more afraid of the alternative at this point. So I wanted to speak to items 21 through 23 on the agenda, starting with the opposition to the detention center in Marana. And I want to say we, the people, we don't need more room for detention. We need due process. The statistics that 73% of people in ICE detention centers have no criminal convictions. Given the statistic from Debbie earlier, that is tens of thousands of innocent people being held in detention. And we should be focusing on due process for these people who are innocent. Locking them up is a direct violation of the Constitution, which applies to everyone on US soil, not just American citizens. It applies to citizens, non-citizens, people of all immigrant status, lawful permanent residents, visa holders, everyone. And so I just want to encourage us to hold opposition to the detention center, and on that vein, commit to upholding these people's constitutional rights through 21 and 22 items, which ensure the accountability of these federal agents in their activities. And then also by permitting their activities from being carried out on county property, to show that Pima County is committed to upholding the Constitution and ensuring the safety of all of its residents who are protected under the Constitution, no matter their status. Thank you.
Next speaker is Simone Holiday.
Good morning, Chair Allen, Supervisors, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Simone Holiday. I'm an overseas voter with experience in human rights monitoring, mostly in complex settings. I worked on those refugee programs that vetted Venezuelans, Sudanese, and Afghans that we welcome in Tucson. I have deep roots in Arizona and know what we endured to build this country and know how we treat guests. Because of that, watching our country risk normalizing practices that weaken accountability, due process, and public trust compelled me to come back to the States and speak today. I want to address items 21, 22, and 23 together because they raise serious concerns about transparency and accountability. On masking, when officers wear masks without visible identification, people cannot verify authority, report abuse, or seek help when something goes wrong. Nationally, masked enforcement has been linked to misidentification. A U.S. District Judge, William C. Young, says ICE goes masks for a single reason, to terrorize Americans. He goes on to compare ICE to the KKK. He also notes that we have never accepted an armed, masked, secret police. Using county-owned property for detention or federal immigration enforcement puts the county at legal and ethical risk. This includes, of course, the detention center in Marana. Detention is linked to well-documented harm, including poor medical care, lack of access to clergy, separation from family, and preventable deaths. When local governments provide space or support, they are not neutral. They are being complicit in practices that may amount and have already amounted to grave human rights abuses. Counties have both the right and the responsibility to set clear limits. Thank you. I urge the board to act responsibly.
And then before Mitchell Anderson speaks, I want to call up the next three speakers, Roma, is it Lamore? Dave Smith and Vivek. I should know how to pronounce your last name by now. But I don't think Barhatan. Mitchell Anderson, please.
I'm Mitch Anderson, and I'm representing Democracy Unites Us, which was started with the Tesla protests. I'm here to urge you to resist the Marana ICE Detention Center, euphemism for concentration camp, warehouses with dog kennel-like chain link cages, wall to wall, 1,000 people in one room, lights on 24/7, no walls, noise, no toilets. You build them, if you comply, if you build them, they fill them. Who will build them? Dirty money friends of Trump. MTC who wants Marana. Why else would a private company buy a facility that was built in the 90s for roughly $200,000? Why would they buy it recently for roughly for $15 million? Because they smell the money. Who will fill them? Well, if Renee and Alex had been Hispanic and hadn't been shot, they would. 70% have had no previous conviction, not the worst of the worst. If Stephen Miller has his way, go to the darkest thoughts of white supremacy, and as of 2 days ago, include the journalists, the protesters. That would be me. 5,000 of us last Friday, your teachers, your kids, your friends, grandmothers. There were at least 5,000 last Friday. Shame on mainstream media. There's drone footage available. These camps. We don't want to be a prison town. We want to be a university town, a tourist destination, food, culture, family. Detractors say they want to keep us safe. This is chaos, upset, illegal arrests, deaths of people who aren't in the headlines, the aggressive overreach of this administration. The issue is the Marana facility. Here is a rap sheet of the behavior of MTC, the owners of the facility, and I have one for each of you. Take a stand against this ICE. The old ICE wasn't perfect, God knows, but this ICE, not all, untrained, hopped up, masked Proud Boy goons. We don't want any of this ICE near us. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Roma Lamore, followed by Dave Smith and Vivek.
Good morning. My name is Roma Lamore. I'm a resident of Pima County in Tucson in District 5. I echo what other speakers have said more eloquently than I could about what's on your agenda 21, 22, and 23. I'm here to ask you to do whatever you can to protect all of our citizens and keep ICE out of our county. We can see what's happening around the country, and it's terrible. And so I just wanted to stand up and say that. Also, on your the second part, not the agenda, but the
Addendum.
say it again. Addendum, thank you. I wholly support the banning the use of NDAs for anything, because the secrecy of keeping any kind of deal, same thing with this detention center in Marana, that's a financial deal. We need to not have NDAs like what happened with Project Blue. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Smith.
Well, not a very balanced audience for this, so I'm going to stand up and say, for 4 years, we had an open border. The sovereignty of the United States was not enforced, but this precipitates today's problem. You know, we talk about Obama was the, how many, 3.5 million people he took out of this nation? Now, the problem we have is this. We have tens of thousands of people who are in this country, maybe millions. We're not even sure. 2 million gotaways. We have no idea who they are. Now, you demand that we do due process. But then you have, where are you going to put the people going through the due process? This whole thing is an infantile masturbatory act in an attempt to make you feel good without changing the reality. We have a constitution. The American public, democracy, democracy, democracy. Well, the McLaughlin poll came out this morning, shows 57% of all Americans want illegal aliens removed. 67% want all criminal aliens removed. And how do you determine that? Now, we have a constitution, we have a federal government. They usurp certainly any county control, but it's not a usurpation because it's the legitimate legal act. And that's what's happening here. You're doing the usurpation. You know, Supervisor Allen, I saw you on the news the other night. I was on that same show. And you talk about who's afraid. My neighborhood is afraid that you're going to undermine this nation even more. They're not concerned about what Customs and Border Patrol is doing. You want to take the mask off these people so you can have access to hurt them. That's what I see. Now, I'm going to say this too. The one thing this board has been able to make me do is sure miss Sharon Bronson right there. I'll tell you what. So folks, protect the community. It's got to be no strangers over citizens. It's got to stop.
That's time. So our next three speakers are Lori Cantillo, Florence Johnson, and Bets Putnam Hidalgo. And I will turn it over to you, Vivek Paratan.
Nice. Hello, good morning. I am here to encourage first of all, to thank you for bringing items 21, 22, and 23, and to urge you to vote for them. I think it's the right moral thing to do in this moment. I'm also hoping that we can take inspiration from other communities and in turn inspire other communities to end profiting from cruelty altogether in every single thing that we do to keep our communities running. And to me, that looks like finding what the projects are that maybe are more numerous and smaller, maybe not as big, don't come with outside money, which also comes with a lot of blood, and figure out what we can do that are smaller, that our communities that ourselves can invest in. And I hope that we can land on a model that stops these kinds of projects from coming through as even possibilities. Thank you.
Next speaker is Lori Cantillo. And then I'll also just ask everybody in the audience to keep decorum, right? Both from things that you support, things that you oppose, and that we've asked for keeping the applause, et cetera, to a minimum out of respect for all speakers. Ms. Cantillo.
Good morning.
Chair Allen, Supervisors, Administrator Lesher, thank you for your courage in bringing forth these important issues today. We're at a tipping point in America when we can no longer look the other way or say we didn't know what was happening. We've all seen the videos, masked and heavily armed thugs wandering the streets, shoving and tear gassing, demanding papers. This is not something that we should see in America, in Pima County. They're smashing car windows and knocking down doors without warrants, where people exercising their First Amendment right to bear witness and to peacefully film are deemed terrorists, where U.S. citizens are being kidnapped and killed before our very eyes. They say they go after the worst of the worst, but we all know that detention growth is driven by quotas and by people with no criminal records. We saw a 5-year-old in a bunny hat being detained behind bars. Families separated, hardworking moms and dads terrorized while at work or going to work, kids who are hiding and unable to go to school. Pima County land must not be a staging ground for cruelty. We need to unmask ICE in the interest of community safety and transparency, and we must pull every lever to stop the detention center in Marana. Earlier, we all put our hands across our hearts and pledged liberty and justice for all. I thank you for your courage, and I hope that Pima County will join others in being on the right side of history. Thank you.
Next speaker is Florence Johnson.
Thank you all for the opportunity to have public comment and present on the issues. I am speaking today to support consent agenda items 21, 22, and 23. Federal immigration enforcement actions are disrupting communities across Pima County. Overreaching immigration policies are being expanded to include providing federal funds to local governments and law enforcement agencies to conduct indiscriminate surveillance and data collection operations. This is a violation of Pima County residents' Fourth Amendment constitutional rights, even when surveillance is being conducted as a training operation. Surveillance data trains AI for immigration enforcement. Today, federal immigration enforcement actions are disproportionately disrupting work, school, and worship, and the quiet enjoyment of life across Pima County communities. For hundreds of years, Pima County communities have been enriched by the free flow of commerce and culture across our southern border. Services that's even federal policies have usurped states' rights and ripped apart families who embody the vibrant cultural heritage and vitality that mixed status families have brought to this region since before Arizona was a territory, let alone a state. Immigration enforcement operations conducted by federal agents have disproportionate negative effects on local businesses, property values, and families perceived as not of European heritage. I urge you to vote for the consent agendas 21, 22, and 23. Thank you.
And before Beth speaks, I just want to call up the next three speakers. Could be Vinter Dozier, April Putney, and Brandon Olander. Bets.
Hi, I think you've heard all that I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it again. It's pretty ironic to be here on Mexican American Heritage Day, asking you to vote yes on agenda items 21 through 23 to at least limit the abuses of ICE and the Murder Patrol to non-county areas. A no vote means you support shock troops and concentration camps in Pima County. You can do better. And you do it in the name of protection. I am sorry to hear that there are people who are so terrorized, so afraid in Pima County that they want all of us to give our rights away. for their protection. We and our neighbors, your constituents, are subject to unidentified goons in masks with lethal weapons. They have many more new rights to damage us than we have to protect ourselves. That is wrong. I just want to say, I really appreciate Pima County for standing up and trying to stand up to ICE. Standing up to the current climate of fear and hate. Oh my God, we need to see more of that in our politicians, especially our Democrats. Who stops this? Who stops ICE? We do. Who stops ICE? You do, as our representatives. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Victor Dozier.
Please. Hello, my name is Victor Dozier with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I stand before you today as a deeply concerned resident of Pima County, compelled by a profound weariness witnessing ICE agents instill terror within our community, all while operating with absolute impunity. We now face a unique and decisive opportunity to rectify this glaring absence of accountability. It is within our power to actively protect our neighbors from the injustice of state-sanctioned abduction. We all know that MTC's reputation is no secret. Their for-profit prisons have a well-documented legacy of violence and neglect. In Kingman, Arizona, their negligence directly led to the sexual assault and murder of a 23-year-old man. It is clear that immigrant detention centers and MTC facilities are not a broken institution that need to be fixed, but a deliberately oppressive one that needs to be completely rejected. I think I can speak for most people in the audience when I say that when I look at my immigrant neighbor, I do not see a criminal who ICE and MTC agent believes that they should be locked away. Agents must be held accountable for the cruel actions they are committing. Masks are being used as a tool to inflict state violence from people in positions of power. To stop their use of hiding their faces would be a part of holding agents accountable. Banning ICE from using county-owned properties would also be a part of holding them accountable. We refuse to stand by as a facility and agency that are only responsible for violence and cruelty to open up in our community. Last week on Friday, people across the nation shut down the country and county to make our demand clear. That is, we advise ICE out of schools, neighborhoods, and our county. You saw it in Tucson. Millions of people and 6,000 in Tucson in unison took to the streets for one simple demand: abolish ICE. As elected officials, you each took on the responsibility to care out the interests of your county residents. It does not get more clear than this. We demand an end with ICE collaboration from all Pima County entities and an end to the MTC fatality.
Next speaker is April Patrick.
Hello, Chair Allen, Board of Supervisors. Thank you for allowing me to speak accordance with the sunshine laws this morning. I came up to speak as a Pima County resident, unpaid, representing only myself, to support unequivocally the exploration of ordinances in addendum numbers 21, 22, and 23, protecting county-owned properties, banning the use of masks by law enforcement, and I stand in opposition to the ICE detention center in Marana, proposed to be run by MTC. I understand that the purpose of government is to protect the health and safety of the residents within the jurisdiction, and standing against ICE will protect our safety here far more than doing nothing. I consider it your obligation as our leaders to do so, and I really appreciate that you are willing to take a stand against the violence that all of the people here, except for two extreme outliers, have very clearly recognized. I think it would be super ironic and kind of tragic if you were not to pass the addendums on the day that you proclaimed Mexican American Heritage Day. So please keep that in mind. I would like to see consistency from my elected representatives. I also want to encourage everybody in the audience here to do whatever you can to also resist ICE, as the leadership is showing you the way. Whatever you can, join an organization, autonomous action. I don't care what you do, now's the time. I also want to firmly encourage you to consider how and who will be enforcing these ordinances if or when they're passed, and I hope they are. I saw the other day ICE strike a cyclist peaceful protester with their car. South TPD and TPD were there and did nothing about the assault. So I question, what will Pima County Sheriff's Office do to enforce these laws that I hope that you will follow through on? Thank you.
Next speaker is Brandon Olander, and then after Brandon speaks, we will go to a phone to hear from Jenilyn Lasana. Then we'll hear JJ Lamb and Mara Short. Brandon.
Thank you, Chair Allen, Board of Supervisors. I'm a lifelong Pima County resident. I wrote what I wanted to say, but I also wanted to speak to some of the things that the two folks brought up their concerns, but both have left the room now. It's been shown that undocumented workers contribute to the economy. They don't take from it. It's been shown that undocumented workers commit fewer crimes than natural-born citizens. And I also wanted to bring up MTC, the company, the private prison company who would be operating the Miranda Detention Center if it's built, in 2010 sued the state of Arizona for $10 million in damages. The reason was because we did not give them enough prisoners. They were not at 97% occupancy. So what did they get? What did they try to get? They tried to get more money from our community. Even if an occupancy quota is not in the contract for them operating an ICE detention facility, it speaks to what their goals are. Their goals are not to keep our community safe. Their goals are to make a buck off of what is happening in the community. Not to oversimplify the issue, but there seem to be two sides on this one. On one side are the people who would benefit from a detention center, from continued ICE operation. They're the ultra wealthy political and economic elites whose names appear dozens of times in the Epstein files. They seek to tighten their grip on the American population through surveillance and dividing people against each other. On the other side are everyday normal people in this room, citizens and immigrants alike, who just want to make an honest living, support their families, and support their communities. Now's the time to choose your side. Thank you very much.
Now we are going to go to the phone for a comment from Jenilyn Lasana. Hello? Connected. Well, we're going to move on to the next speaker, and then we will come back to Jenilyn. JJ Lamb.
Administrator Lesher, Pima County Board Chair Allen, Supervisor Christie, and our other supervisors. I'm JJ Lamb, the president of Vail Preservation Society. I'm a third-generation Arizona and a longtime Vail resident. My comments are related to agenda items 9 and 13, Vail Crossings, Desert Vistas Community Facility District. I understand that improvement in facilities districts are a tool that facilitates property owners, either singly or, as in this case, as a group, to make needed or desired improvements to their property. We're not opposed to improvement districts. They are a useful tool. But like most policies and tools, there are often some gaps in their implementation. This proposed district includes changes to Colossal Cave Road, which provides access to but is not included in the applicant's property. I would request that because the Colossal Cave Road project impacts the few remaining, actually only 2 historic resources in Vail, that as a community, there has been continual economic and cultural investment in this location, Vail's founding site, between the tracks. We request that mitigations that will add protections to the shrine and the old Vail Post Office, a territorial era building listed on the National Register and part of historic Vail, included in the Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan. We request that there be specifically drainage planning that will protect the adobe buildings and vehicle length and weight limits that will mitigate the impacts of the proposed Michigan turn. These mitigations would protect the property rights of the residents, property owners, and business owners, and nonprofits like Vail Preservation Society that have and continue to make significant investments in this area that is adjacent
to the proposed area. I think that's my time. Thank you very much.
We are going to try again, Jenilyn Lasana on the phone. Are you there, Ms. Lasana?
Yes.
Great.
I think it worked this time. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I don't know what happened. It didn't unmute me last time. So thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. And you have 2 minutes.
Hello. Oh, good. Good. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Good morning. Jenilyn Lasana, Pima County resident. I'm a retired U.S. Army National Guard veteran. I'm a proud immigrant and a naturalized citizen. And a first-generation college graduate and a mother. So I'm here for the people who can't speak or who are afraid to. And I'm just submitting these comments to supplement the letter from yesterday. I express deep respect for lawful process, public service, and in moments like this, the government's responsibility to act deliberately when community safety and public trust are at stake. And I'm asking this board and all of our county department leaders to meet the gravity of this moment. There is a growing narrative that I'm seeing that this facility is a done deal and that what happens next is out of our hands. I fundamentally disagree. This is exactly when we need you, and the highest levels of scrutiny already baked into processes, and they must be exercised. Because, you know, these issues aren't abstract, they're not theoretical. We know it's at our doorstep. This detention center is an 8-minute drive from the Gladden Farms community and its elementary school. It's 20 minutes from my mother's home, and it's a really concerning 4-minute drive from the Marana Airport. If this facility goes operational beyond the fear it will cause, it will be costly and resource intensive for Pima County without adding value. I believe it will, taint commerce and property values, and people aren't going to want to live or work where suffering is institutionalized or where people can hear children crying and it becomes background noise. So this isn't business as usual. We know what's happening is unconstitutional, and you all have power. Once it's operating, it's going to be impossible to stop. So I urge you to honor the power that you stated in your opposition and ensure that
Ms. Lasana,
you're able to take action. Thank you.
So we have hit the hour time that was allotted for call to the audience. We have 7 more speakers. I'd like to make a motion to extend call to the audience to include these speakers.
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Item passes 5-0. Before I call up Mara Short, who is our next speaker, the 3 speakers after Mara are going to be Donald Sanger, Jen, man, who knew I was so terrible at last names, Jen Dehan, and Isabel Garcia. So Mara Short.
Good morning, board, and thank you so much for the chance to speak today. I'm a resident of Tucson, and I want to speak in strong support of items 21 through 23 regarding ICE in Pima County and the proposed detention center in Marana. ICE agents here across the nation have repeatedly shown their lack of concern for human life, and I want the city to follow through on these proposals to make sure they're not allowed to continue their reign of terror without consequence. ICE is unequivocally not protecting Tucson. Someone was shot by ICE in Aravaipa last week. And if you don't know, a U of A student, Yassine Halahul, was kidnapped and held wrongly in ICE detention for a month. The conditions he described in the center were horrifying and inhuman, and we don't want to be known as a place invested in building more of these detention centers and supporting this imprisonment and violations of human rights. We as Tucsonans do not want our neighbors kidnapped and subjected to these kinds of conditions. We don't want to be complicit in the system, and we don't want to be forced into that by a detention center being built against our will. So I want to thank you for putting these measures forward and speaking about them. I do love Tucson, but we do have a chance to do better and set an example for the rest of the country. We don't want another detention center. We don't want law enforcement hiding their identities and killing without repercussion. And we want more protection for the people we live with and who we love. So thank you again for discussing these items, and I hope you listen to your constituents and vote yes on all 3 of these proposals. Thank you.
Donald Sanger. Hi, you said Jen?
No, I think I'm saying Donald, Danell Sanger, Oro Valley. All right, then our next speaker is Jen.
Take 2.
Dehan?
Yeah, Dale.
Dale.
So I am a mother, a nurse. I have lived in Australia, the Dominican Republic, France, Belgium. And I came back to the US because I felt as a woman, it was the best place for me to have a voice, to make a career. And I am going to be honest, at this point, I am terrified to speak out for what I truly believe in and feel. And yet I do it. But the whole point is that we are here because we are afraid that our freedoms are being stripped away. And we greatly appreciate your public service, that you feel that you are in service to the people. We know that those that hold this administration do not feel that they are in service to the public. Their goals are power and greed. And so I'm asking that you, as you have stated you would object to the ICE facility, that you would hold ICE agents accountable with us being able to see faces and ID. But I'm also asking, because it's happened over and over again, we have laws that have been defied, and this administration has not been held accountable. So I ask that you consider how you're going to hold people accountable when things go awry. And I just want to thank you again for your public service. That is again why I moved back to the United States after living in many beautiful and amazing countries. Thank you for your time. Thank you everyone who's here to make your voice heard. Please do not stop speaking out. I have a son who asked why there are thugs shooting people on the street when he saw that video, and I had to explain that to a 14-year-old. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Isabel Garcia, and then I'm going to call up the speakers after Isabel, which is Hazel Heinzer, Rainey Ikagawa, and Marisol Winfrey Herrera. Just go ahead, Isabel.
Good morning, members of the board and the staff. My name is Isabel Garcia. I've been here before. I'm a retired lawyer here for the county. And I've told you before, I've never seen this kind of actions taken against people with at most that might have an administrative violation, or people who have applied for asylum and they look them up. They're going for the low-hanging fruit. You know very well, right, that it's not the worst of the worst. Well, 21, 22, and 23 are an effort to help us because, as somebody said, we are going to stop them. El pueblo salva el pueblo. Only the community can save the community. We ask you for help. The prison is a concentration camp. Let me tell you about MTC in May of 2015. They had a racist administration. It was so horrendous that finally the powder keg just burst up in flames. And they destroyed the prison. And the guy who started the riot committed suicide. He died by suicide because he had known he was wrong. What did MTC pay? Nothing. Shame on Governor Hobbs for having sold that prison to them. You know, there's a lot to say, and I have 34 seconds. A lot of people have a lot to say. You're not the Congress. We know the city council isn't the Congress, but we come to you for help because we have 4th, 5th, 6th, and 10th Amendment rights. And you must be here to protect us, right? It's not going to change until we have a change of mentality. That man who left said 56% believe all of this nonsense. That's why we didn't challenge Trump sufficiently in demeaning migrants. And so I ask you to be on the right side of history.
Our next speaker is Hazel.
Good morning. I think it's still morning time. My name is Hazel Heinzer. I'm a mom, a family therapist, and a resident of District 3. I'm here today to ask you to support an ordinance prohibiting Pima County property for being used by immigration enforcement and to support an ordinance that bans all law enforcement officers from wearing masks while on the job and requires them to wear visible identification. There is no accountability if law enforcement is masked while inflicting state violence from a position of power. We need to be unambiguous that law enforcement wearing masks while on the job is very different from those of us without that power who choose to mask for protection and health purposes. I also ask you to support a resolution opposing the ICE detention center in Marana. Federal enforcement operations are terrorizing communities, tearing families apart, and traumatizing people of all ages and backgrounds. We've seen this over and over in other communities, and it's already happening here. I know the county has very little control over how federal dollars are spent, but the way those federal resources are deployed here greatly affects everyone in Pima County. Reckless federal immigration enforcement and ICE detention centers drain local resources, including law enforcement, when they are called for backup and local natural resources. Imagine what we could do with those funds and resources instead. We could fund public education, housing, healthcare. We could create community centers, community gardens. We could fund community sports and arts programs. We could truly take care of our neighbors. Basic human rights, dignity, freedom, it's not a zero-sum game. All of our rights to live freely as ourselves are connected. If we work together, support each other, take care of each other, all of us, we all benefit. I believe a better world is possible, and I'm counting on you all to help create that world. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rainey Ikagawa.
Good morning, Chair Allen, Supervisors. Thank you for the platform to speak with you this morning. My name is Rainey Ikagawa. I live in District 5 and have lived in Tucson since 2019. And today I would like to strongly voice my support for items 21, 22, and 23. I believe that these are meaningful actions that we can take as a county to shrink ICE's playground for kidnapping human beings off of our streets. This is a baby step to hold law enforcement officials, including ICE, accountable for their actions. And this is a display that our community will not tolerate this kind of behavior. We must vehemently oppose the detention center in Marana. I cannot fathom a Tucson in which we allow this. I'm first generation Japanese American. 80 years ago, I may have been found or sent to the Catalina Federal Honor Camp that you may better recognize today as the Gordon Hirabayashi Campground on Mount Lemmon. And are we really going to do this again? Like in 85 years, I want to celebrate that we resisted, that we did not build this detention center that we may as well call a concentration camp, and not leave it up for our children and our grandchildren to rebrand that place in a shameful makeup for an atrocity that we committed today. So frankly, I don't care who someone is. Every human deserves to be treated with dignity, and no one is illegal on stolen land. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Marisol Winfrey Herrera, and then after Marisol is Joanna Yeager, and then that is our last two speakers.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for bringing items 21, 22, and 23. I want to ask you each to support those agenda items today. I just wanted to zoom out and I think everything that I am going to say has been said already, but just to recall what is at the heart of this. So much money to be made, so much money that has been made in the displacement of people globally. Yeah. I also want to call into question, why
deportation and incarceration of people is even our go-to solution as a country. This is part of the settler colonial state that has made that the norm. To me, it bears questioning why we see it as normal, like previous administrations. It's not just this Republican administration that has been so violent to people, and even just based on the color of their skin or the country that they came from. I just want to think of centuries ago, people came here and were like, this is land that I want. We're going to kill everybody who's here or make them do what we want them to do. We're going to enslave people from another continent to build out this country how we see it should be. And then we're going to make laws and incarcerate people if we think they shouldn't be here so that they can't ruin the good stuff that we have going on. So also just want to thank everybody who's here, who has been doing this work. If this is your first time showing up, please remember that there are also other ways of continuing to show up together and build community to resist the violence of the state. Thank you.
Thank you. And then our last speaker is Joanna Yeager. Joanna Yeager?
No, Tabiri, Magic Tabiri.
Oh, were you here to speak to public hearing item 17?
And of course, can I also talk about the new issue, which is the Marana concentration camp?
Yeah. Do you mind? There's a public hearings have the yellow card. Call the audience is the green card, and so we need you to scratch out your info quickly on the green card. Come on up.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Kabiri, and my friend and my student call me Doc. First, I would like to ask you to show your courage and say no to Gestapo concentration camp in Marana. 50 years ago, I come here. I assume that here is the land of the free. But I do not want to have a Gestapo concentration camp in my neighborhood. And also, I have a comment for Mr. Cano. You mentioned some of the features of the Dialogo Treaty. The most important feature of that treaty was that the property of the Mexican people here would be respected. But if you look at the history, most of the people that they had land, they lost their land per that treaty. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we're going to close, call to the audience, and then we are going to take a 5-minute break. So please get up, stretch your legs. We'll come back and we will hear items 21, 22, 23, and then we'll also go into some of the public hearings. Christy?
Thank you,
If you
Madam.
could have it quiet. Quiet, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to direct staff when the hearing agenda item that is the appropriate one comes before the board to address the issues that Ms. Lamb commented on. If you could prepare for that and address the points she was making, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, would other board members like to request staff to follow up on any matters from call to the public, request that an item be placed on a future agenda, or respond to a criticism? Okay. With that, we will now go for a 5-minute break. Thank you. We are going to resume the meeting. I know that there are people lined up getting through security, but we are going to go ahead and start the meeting. If you could take your seats, please. So we are, if you could take your seats, please. So the next item on the agenda that we are going to hear is item 21, protecting county-owned properties. This was an item that I put on the agenda. I wanted to provide a little bit of context behind it and then move it forward for discussion. As speakers have said today very clearly, and as we have seen on the streets of our community, both in terms of people standing up through protest and through monitoring and documenting activities of immigration enforcement agents, we need to, well, maybe to zoom out just a tad bit. We all, I think all of us on the board, work really hard to protect the people around us, be it our families, people in healthcare, students, neighbors, employees, right? And what we have been witnessing is such an assault on people's safety and people's dignity that I think, like other folks in our community, I have been struggling to figure out what it is that we can do to stand up, because we have to stand up. I have in the last 2 months had close family friends who have been detained and are sitting in Florence. One of whom was denied ICE says that within 24 hours, everybody sees a doctor. This was not true for 7 days. And he was denied access to necessary heart medication. This is not unusual. This is not atypical, right? Right now, our community is struggling whether to go to school, whether to go to church, to go get medical care. These are things that I think are the antithesis, right? Of what it is that we as a body seeks to create within our community. We need people to feel safe. And so in thinking about county property, we have libraries, we have health clinics, we have things like parking garages and other open spaces and conservation lands. Places of the county should be places that are safe for people to escape from, find some ounce of respite against the terror that we are seeing out on our streets and in streets across this country. So this is an effort for the county to look to and give direction to the county administrator, Pima County Attorney's Office, to develop an ordinance that will be returned to us at our next meeting on the February 17th because of the urgency of the moment, that can lay out how our property can be safe from federal immigration enforcement. So with that, I would like to move the item.
Second. Madam Chair.
Seconded by Supervisor Hines. Discussion?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Christie.
I'd like to offer a substitute motion. Reads as follows. Pima County purchased the Drexel Road property with $8 million of taxpayer ARPA funds to facilitate federal immigration enforcement by operating a welcoming center for what was then called asylum seekers per the previous administration's policies. Accordingly, I move that Pima County enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the federal government to lease the Drexel Road facility and other Pima County properties to facilitate federal immigration enforcement per the current administration policies in an attempt to recoup the $8 million on behalf of Pima County taxpayers.
Is there a second to that? Hearing none, I will resume opening it up for discussion for the original motion. Supervisor Scott.
Thank you, Chair Allen, and thank you for putting this item on the agenda. To correct something that Supervisor Christie alluded to a couple of minutes ago, the county began taking, under the first Trump administration, federal funds that we use to shelter and otherwise care for legally processed asylum seekers in the United States. And we did that for a period of 6 years, beginning under the first Trump administration, continuing through the Biden administration. I always supported accepting those funds and making use of them for one simple reason. It was a way of protecting public health and safety, not just the health and safety of legally processed asylum seekers. And they are called that because they are given that status by Customs and Border Patrol at the border, but also to protect the general public health and safety. We were able to prevent street releases of legally processed asylum seekers in Pima County, like you saw in other southwestern cities, including San Antonio, San Diego, El Paso. We were also able to afford assistance and support to our two rural neighbors, Cochise and Santa Cruz counties, that had no way of taking care of what they were also experiencing when legally processed asylum seekers were released in their counties. For this, protecting public health and safety is one of our most solemn and necessary duties as county government. And that is why I am going to vote for this item. Because when we take a look at what has been happening around the country, perhaps especially, as all of us know, in Minneapolis, but that's not the only place. We are dealing with not just ICE officials, but Customs and Border Patrol officials. Let's remember that Mr. Preddy was shot by a Customs and Border Patrol official. Those are folks who are not supposed to be working within the interior of the country. They are Customs and Border Patrol, and yet this administration is sending them into the interior of the country where they are not trained to operate. With regard to ICE, it is documented that they have scaled back their training standards. They have scaled back their hiring standards. They are operating under numeric quotas set up by an advisor to the President of the United States, Stephen Miller, that essentially calls for 3,000 deportations a day. And we know, to go back to something that was said during Call to the Public, these are not the worst of the worst. People are finding that their neighbors, their friends, as Chair Allen just said, are being detained. This isn't what was promised. And beyond all of those things that I just mentioned, we have the tragic fates of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, who died at the hands of their government. And so going back to that solemn and necessary charge of protecting public health and safety that we are obliged to take on as supervisors, I cannot countenance the idea of federal immigration officials operating, staging any of their activities on county property. So I will proudly support this item, and I thank you, Chair Allen, for bringing it forward.
Supervisor Kano.
Thank you, Madam Chair and colleagues. I want to thank members of the public for coming today because your voice matters, and what you are doing by coming to your local government, pleading for action is not only inspiring, but it's a moment that we need you to stand up, to use your voices, and to ask for protections at the local level. I support this motion because fear is spreading in our community. It is changing how people live. It is changing where people go and changing whether people seek help. We have seen ICE enforcement operations in front of schools, in front of churches, in churches, near the places where families should feel protected. We have seen people detained on the way to work. We've seen chaos and panic. And we have seen enforcement carried out in ways that are cruel, disruptive, and destabilizing. When mass federal agents show up at public spaces, it doesn't just intimidate the person they came for. It scares everyone watching. It scares the employees who have to respond, the families who came for services. And that fear spreads, and it makes our community less safe. It means victims don't report crimes. People don't go to the hospital. Our kids don't go to school. Pima County is a property owner. We have the legal authority to set rules on county property. We have the authority to protect access to services, to protect our county employees, and the authority to keep public spaces calm and functional. Our buildings are not traps. Our parks are not ambush sites. Our health clinics are not places of fear, and our libraries are not places people should avoid. They are public spaces. They belong to the public and to everyone. This motion says we will use the tools that we have to keep families safe and all of our neighbors protected. We will defend order in our community, and we will not let fear take over the places people rely on to live, learn, heal, and work. I look forward to receiving the county administrator's recommendations on how to maintain order and safety throughout Pima County. Thank you.
Supervisor Hines.
Thank you. And thank you again for bringing forward this item. It's really great to see everyone here. It's unfortunate that the circumstances for your presence is where we find ourselves. This has happened various times throughout our history. And our government, especially our federal government, should not be a public health and safety threat. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing with ICE, with CBP. They do have a legitimate role to play, but they think things have gone far, far beyond. They're being weaponized. As you've heard from my colleagues, I'm not going to echo everything they've said, but I'm also supportive of this item and will look forward to voting for the ordinance when it comes back before us in its final form. And just remember that the government, your county government, your city government, your state government, and your federal government, all of these governments require the consent of you, the governed. And I would say that the federal government has lost that consent. So keep doing what you're doing. All right.
Madam Chair. Supervisor Christie.
One element that's been ignored, and I'm sure it's been done so purposely, is the very intense subject of enforcement. Let's take a scenario where an ICE group is deployed in numerous spots in Pima County, on Pima County property, at parks or a library or a parking lot to enforce their programs of deportation. They are on county property. An ordinance against allowing ICE has been passed by this board. What are we going to do? Send in Tucson Police Department to draw their guns and fight? Is that what we're going to do? Is that what we're asking for? Are we asking for the Sheriff's Department to arm themselves up and go in and fight ICE with guns and all types of violence? This is really a highly volatile issue that is being perpetrated by this board without thinking it thoroughly through. And if there is any violence after this ordinance is passed, it'll be on the hands of my colleagues to my left. And if you're asking for some sort of a civil insurrection, a violent one, you're treading on very dangerous territory, and I think you know that. This is a lot of show, but it also has a lot of danger to it, because now you're going to be instructing other law enforcement agencies to physically battle with ICE. Think about that. Thank you.
May I?
Supervisor Hines.
Thank you. Listen, I've spoken to our law enforcement. I have faith and confidence in our local law enforcement. I spoke, and they are not immigration enforcement agents. They know that. I was in the legislature when Senate Bill 1070 was passed forever ago, 2010, I think it was. That was a terrible law that attempted to weaponize and force local police departments and sheriff's departments to become effectively immigration enforcement officers and just pull people, anyone over that kind of they might suspect, right? So this is something that we've been through before, and I have every confidence in our local, in the sheriff's department, in our deputies, in our in TPD, and all of our other jurisdictional law enforcement agents that are they are here to de-escalate these kinds of situations, and that's what they've done. They literally had to rescue ICE, right, from Taco Hero, because they got themselves into a walled parking lot, and they had to literally call Tucson Police Department to help de-escalate to get them extracted, right? So it's our local law enforcement is there to protect us and to make sure that violence is something that does not happen.
Supervisor Scott.
Chair Allen, it's certainly correct that nobody has the right or ability to impede a federal operation. But we have the right, the ability, and the duty to safeguard county property. And that is all that this item is calling for. That's all that the ordinance that will come before us is calling for. Local governments around the country have taken this kind of action. This is nothing novel or new, but it is something that is abundantly necessary because of what we're seeing coming out of the federal government. And I've been proud to hear our Attorney General and our county attorney say more than once, that if you violate local or state law in Arizona or Pima County, they will hold you to account, and that will include this ordinance.
Supervisor Christie.
I just leave you with my final comment, and I think it's the underlying score of the whole issue here. Who will enforce this ordinance and how?
So it has been brought to my attention that ordinances, it's a little county 101 here, I guess, maybe 201, we'll call it. Ordinances require 15 days. This agenda item calls for a follow-up because of the urgency on February 17th, which is our next meeting, which does not allow 15 days. So the amendment is going to be that at the next meeting on February 17th, that we have a policy that is brought back to the board from the administration, and then the ordinance will follow at our meeting on March 3rd.
Do I need to re-second that?
Chair, if I may.
Is that stated correctly?
I would also ask Chair Allen, supervisors for authorization to publish draft ordinance and notice prior to the February 17th meeting. So that would be on February 16th or before, to meet the 15 days before March 3rd. If there's an amendment to the motion to do that as well.
Okay.
I'm agreeable to that if you want to amend the motion.
Okay. So the motion is amended that at the February 17th meeting, we will receive a policy. Well, we'll put this back chronologically. On February 16th, the county attorney's office will post the draft ordinance. On February 17th, this board will receive, we will have a policy on our agenda and discuss then. And then the subsequent meeting on March 3rd, we will have the ordinance on our agenda. That is my motion. Seconded by Supervisor Hines. So going back now to the the amended item in full. It was seconded already by Supervisor Hines. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed?
Item passes 4-1. Our next item number 22, banning the use of masks by law enforcement. Again, our office put this on the agenda as we heard extensively from community members today. It called to the audience. We do everything that we can, like I said earlier, to protect our loved ones in our community. But before our eyes, the Trump administration has been sending out masked secret police to militarize our communities and kidnap our immigrant neighbors, families, friends from job sites, churches, courthouses, schools, hospitals, inciting terror and forcing people to live in the shadows. Secret police do not display their names or their badge numbers, and they wear face coverings to hide their identities. In a state of Arizona that has a history of rogue vigilante groups and where people openly carry visible and concealed guns, having masked, unidentified agents is a powder keg waiting to explode. So let me be clear. This sort of behavior is textbook authoritarianism and should terrify all of us. So together, we have to fight for a community where no one fears that they will be ripped away from their family. So first, that means that we have to demand accountability by requiring Trump's secret police to self-identify, stop using unmarked vehicles, show their faces to the world. No longer will these secret police be allowed to hide while they wreak havoc on our communities. This item is to direct the county administration working with PCAO to draft an ordinance that prohibits the use of masks and requires law enforcement to display their agency and badge numbers. This is an essential step to putting a stop to lawless kidnapping and to keep families together. So I move the item.
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Hines. Open for discussion.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Christie.
I'd like to offer a substitute motion directing the administration to research and craft an ordinance that bans the public revealing of law enforcement officers' private and personal information at the city, county, state, and federal levels, known as doxing, and requires all law enforcement officers to wear visible identification.
Do I hear a second? Amendment fails for lack of a second. I open up the item for discussion. Supervisor Connell.
Thank you, Chair Allen. I too share concerns about the masks being worn by federal agents. And I would like, as part of the motion, which I will be supporting today, for us to do due diligence with our law enforcement teams, particularly the Sheriff's Department. I've not been able to have a conversation with our sheriff about the impacts of this particular proposal. And what I'm hoping we return from is essentially a countywide law enforcement identification and public transparency standard requiring visible agency affiliation and defining narrow exceptions for legitimate PPE and safety needs, and including ways to ensuring that we are legally compliant is where I'm at right now. We've really got to, on this particular proposal, see what authority the county has. And for the public's information, our only county entity managed and supported by this board from a financial perspective is the Sheriff's Department. And the way that county employees have an administrative procedure, I have more questions about what the sheriff does for training, for instance, and internal policies and guidance that are given to our deputies. This motion is worded that the administration can come to us with all of that investigation and recommendations. But I do think that we need to tread carefully on this particular proposal because I don't know what our legal authority is at the county level. And so thank you, Chair Allen, for bringing this forward. And I look forward to the recommendations that we receive from the administration.
Sure.
Supervisor Hines.
Thank you, and I also appreciate this this item and the and the motion. It's interesting because 4 or 5 years ago, when a couple of us were first brought onto this board, we were in a pandemic, and I remember we voted for masking requirements. Right, so it's here we are with masks again. I never thought we would be discussing, and I recall some of the groups that were most vocally opposed actually sometimes were members of law enforcement on vaccination and other things. So it's sort of come full circle. I believe, though, to the point expressed, which is valid for sure by my colleague from District 5, the Arizona revised statutes do confer upon counties a significant authority to address public health threats. Illegal or questionably legal seizing of people, and of course, in certain situations, harming these people. Sometimes they've been killed. The amount of anxiety that is creating among the members of our community, that in this area, in this tremendously welcoming community that I came to 22 years ago, because I felt that energy. I do believe that this represents a significant public health threat, and that we could possibly frame an ordinance in such a way, relying on that public health authority to eliminate that public health threat by requiring full transparency and no masking of law enforcement agencies, with the exception for legitimate need for a health issue. If someone is sick or whatever, that's different. But I think that that's something that we can explore, and I hope that the county attorney and staff will do that.
Thank you.
Chair Allen.
Supervisor Scott.
Thank you. I very much appreciate the comments from Supervisor Cano, because we are getting into an area that none of us know well at all. None of us have served in law enforcement. And I think it's important that we're consulting with especially our local law enforcement agencies as to the scope of this ordinance. This is an issue that is going to be taken up by the legislature as well. I heard on the news just last night that Representative Sandoval has introduced legislation before the Arizona House that would accomplish statewide what we're talking about today. So I think we need to pursue this carefully and judiciously, with especially consultation with our local law enforcement authorities. But I also want to acknowledge and honor what Supervisor Christie alluded to in his motion, his substitute motion, because doxing is happening. And we should never be painting with too broad a brush. Nobody, because of their public role, deserves to have people showing up at their home, threatening their families, endangering their children. We're talking about a failure of leadership when it comes to the actions of some of the DHS agencies. We're not talking about the actions of rank and file people, some of whom have devoted their careers to law enforcement, many of whom are our constituents. So I acknowledge and honor Supervisor Christie's concern about doxing, and I would ask that all of us keep our tactics and our intentions in mind when we are responding to what is a failure of leadership from the Trump administration, not a failure of the actions of rank and file officers. Thank you, Chair Allen.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Christie.
I just want to speak to one of the elements of my colleagues. Thank you, Supervisor Scott, for your words. But one broader sense that I think needs to be addressed, and I'm talking to the law enforcement community, particularly the law enforcement community unions. Tucson Police Officers Association, Arizona Probation Officers Association, Pima County Probation Officers Association, Sheriff's Labor Association of Pima County, Tucson Police Captains, Lieutenants and Associates Association, Pima County Sheriff Commanders Association, and Pima County Sheriff Deputies Association. My colleagues on the left that do not vote, or excuse me, that vote for this item are the same folks that tell union members and law enforcement union members that we are here with you. We have your backs. We need your support. You can count on us, and we will be there to fight for you. By voting for this amendment, what they're really doing is making your lives and your family's lives in danger because of doxing. What needs to be clear here is we've seen it in other venues where everything is the same as far as unions and the support my colleagues give them until push comes to shove. The same applies to here. So I urge my law enforcement union brothers and sisters and the people who defend us and keep our streets safe, who have relied on Democrat support for decades, to remember who voted for what in this session, and that the vast majority of my colleagues are not your friends, and that when it comes to re-election, which is around the corner, and my colleagues call you up to knock on doors, to walk neighborhoods, to write checks, to make phone calls, that you turn them down, and not only turn them down, but point out to them that they abandoned you by allowing doxing and to threaten their lives and to make their jobs that much more dangerous and that much more difficult. Turn down their requests and vote for whoever's running against them. Thank you.
I have worked for years with law enforcement agencies or on policy issues and have learned the strong commitment and the essentialness of having trust, transparency, accountability between law enforcement and the community. And my experience has been that our sheriff's department, the city police department, and other law enforcement agencies in Southern Arizona that are committed to our communities, that know our communities, that trust, transparency, accountability, and integrity are things that they strive for every single day. This item is getting at behaviors that are far outside of that. And so with that, I want to pick back up a similar amendment to the previous item, knowing again that an ordinance requires 15 days, and see if we can do a similar timetable in which we have posted a ordinance on February 16th. We have a policy before the board on February 17th, and we have the ordinance up for a vote on March 3rd.
And if I may, Chair Allen, the request would be on or before the 16th.
On or before.
Yeah, thank you.
And I accept that amendment to the motion.
Seconded by Supervisor Hines. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed?
The amendment passes 4-1. Now returning to the full item, which was previously seconded by Supervisor Hines. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed?
Item passes 4-1. On to item 23. This is a resolution before the board opposing the opening of an immigrant detention center at the old Marana prison, which has been purchased by MTC from the state of Arizona. My understanding is that they are have applied for responded to an RFP to get a contract from the Department of Homeland Security to open up this facility. I want to thank the leadership of Price and others in the Marana area for stepping up and leading this fight against a detention center in our community. As we heard from our constituents, from our community, detention centers are filling, I don't even know where to start, are are warehousing. They are warehousing our community members. We have seen deaths of folks in detention centers for lack of medical care, for the conditions. We have seen from MTC, I think somebody had called to the audience, was handing out a little one-pager about the company itself. MTC facilities across the country are riddled with lawsuits for both the treatment of people in MTC facilities, for the conditions inside those facilities, and by employees in those facilities, for bad working conditions for those that show up day in and day out. This resolution, I think it is essential for us to take a stand as the Board of Supervisors, as the county, that we do not want this for our community. That this is not warehousing our loved ones, our neighbors, our patients, our students, our employees is not the solution. There is much, I think, that we can do to try to stop this detention center. Communities across the United States right now who are fighting this push from the administration to warehouse more and more people to the profit of private companies have been standing up and defeating them. I think that is exactly what members of Price and other community organizations are doing. And I think we as the board need to do all that we can to try to stop this sort of warehousing and inhumanity and denigration of our friends and family members. So with that, I will move the item.
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Hines. Discussion.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Chris.
for someone who's been on the board the longest here, and I can remember very, very clearly that there was a FEMA center. You could call it a detention center, I guess, but it was designed in an opposite way. It was designed to bring immigrants into this country and then set them on their course to whoever knows where or wherever they might be. And it was a FEMA facility, and it was on Los Reales. And it was there for, I guess, close to a couple of years, and it was very busy. There were hundreds and hundreds of arrivals daily. We were never allowed to go in and see what was going on in that facility. We don't know how many people were kept there or warehoused there.
Supervisor Christie, I'm sorry, that was a shelter called Casa Alitas, and we knew exactly how many people were there. We knew exactly who they were.
It was not Casas Alitas. It was a detention center on Los Reales, and it was a FEMA subsidized facility, and it was there to hold people and to bring them into the United States. And it was there for a couple of years. Was that a concentration camp? Every time I ask what is going on there, why do we have that facility on county property? And what is taking place there? The consistent and constant answer from Pima County administration was, oh, that's the federal government's project. We have nothing to do with it. We know nothing about it. Well, this Marana ICE Detention Center is a federal government project. And now all of a sudden we have all kinds of interest in it. What happened to the interest in that holding pen on Los Reales that was run by the federal government then? Not a peep out of anybody. And it just goes to show on this particular issue that we have no jurisdiction, no authority, or no say over a government purchase of a facility for its use. So this is a superfluous, unnecessary action, but you're more than welcome to take it. But it certainly is a lot like many of our resolutions. They don't mean a thing. Thank you.
Chair Allen.
Supervisor Scott.
I do want to ask both the county administrator and the deputy county attorney this question because I'm going to vote for the resolution because I don't want an ICE detention center in Marana, but that's within the boundaries of another jurisdiction. And so I wanted to ask the county administrator and the deputy county attorney, does Pima County have any regulatory or legal authority that we could bring to bear that would prevent an ICE detention facility from opening in the town of Marana? Any regulatory or legal authority?
Chair Allen, to that point, were you seeking an answer now or?
I was.
Oh,
Yes.
my apologies.
That's okay, Supervisor. Thank you.
Administrator Lisher.
To Chair Allen and Supervisor Scott. There, Chair Allen and Supervisor Scott, we don't have jurisdiction over the zoning within an incorporated jurisdiction, but I would defer to the county attorney about what we have in terms of making a statement regarding the policies.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Lesher.
Chair Allen, Supervisor Scott, there may be some legal authority under public nuisance that we've been looking into. There may be other legal authority, and depending on the result of this vote, we can certainly explore those options.
So thank you, Mr. Brown. And Chair Allen, I would request that if the resolution is passed, that the board hear back from the county attorney's office as to our legal authority. Ms. Lesher has pointed out that because the town of Marana has its own zoning laws, we don't have any regulatory authority with regard to zoning. And I have heard representatives of Marana town government say that the zoning is in place, and so they feel that their hands are tied. But I'm intrigued by what Mr. Brown has said and look forward to hearing back from the county attorney's office. Thank you, Chair Allen.
Thank you, Supervisor Scott. Supervisor Kano.
Thank you, Chair Allen. As part of the due diligence with the county administration, I just want to also ask the county administrator to prepare a summary from our health department about when this facility is operating in Pima County, how we are going to ensure that the health within is taken care of. We are already receiving reports of measles outbreaks in Pinal County. What happens with infectious diseases and in confined environments? That means that there will be more cases coming. And one of our constitutional duties as a county is to protect public health. And I do not care if you are in a jail cell or in a detention center or going down the street, walking as an everyday citizen. We have to protect our public health. And this is going to be one of the things that we're going to have to pay close attention to. I do not believe in the private prison industry's assertion that medical services are being provided in a timely manner. And with visitation taking place in these centers as well, with families impacted by the separation of families, I think we've got to be paying close attention to this as well.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Christie.
Supervisor Cano brings up a good point. I'd like to direct this question to the county administrator. Did we send, Ms. Lesher, did we send Pima County Health Department officials into the FEMA camp on Los Realos during COVID?
Chair, thank you. Chair Allen and Supervisor Christie, and forgive me for the nuance, but I believe it was a CBP soft-sided facility that was at Los Realos. I was in the facility, Dr. Garcia was in the facility. I do not know exactly what the public health department did in communication with them, but I'm happy to get back with you on that.
Do you feel that they had authority to go in there?
There were cooperative agreements. We spoke with them frequently as people came from the facilities to the facility on Drexel. We have other facilities. There was a facility on Miracle Mile I'm thinking of where we had, it was also a public facility that was leased by the federal government. I can't think of the name right over on Miracle Mile. We did not have, I don't know what the full authority was, but we used authority within the swimming pool and other facilities within the complex to cooperate with the owners and the operators to ensure that we had people within the facility.
There was a swimming pool in a FEMA holding?
Not in the tent. I'm saying in the facility on Miracle Mile. It was another example of a federal contract with a local operator. And that we were able to work with the organization to, in a cooperative way, to look at a variety of health instances within the facility. They've occurred over the last 5 to 6 years, so I would like an opportunity to go back and provide a more accurate, detailed report.
I'd appreciate that, and I look forward to seeing it. Thank you.
So I would like to, I'm going to restate the motion so that I include the resolution number. So I would like to move to approve resolution 2026-4. And Still seconding by Supervisor Hines. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed?
Opposed?
Item passes 4-1. I would now like to move to item number 25. This is a meet and confer memorandum of understanding. Before we get into this item, I wanted to check in with the county administrator, county attorney, if there are some other circumstances around this item that we need to discuss.
So as of right now, there's been no successful negotiation to get all the parties to agree so there's really nothing to vote on because there's not agreement on the MOU.
Okay.
And am I on the wrong?
Or am I on the wrong one? I think.
25 is the memorandum of understanding.
Yes. So Chair Allen, the motion, if there is not a motion and this item were to die on the table, if there is a motion, there may be a need for further discussion.
So this is the item to move to extend the MOU with AFSCME through June 30th, 2020. That's 28. All right. So 2025, there is no. All right. So item 25 is the memorandum between Pima County and the Deputies Organization. So we are.
So Chair
Madam
Allen.
Chair,
Yes.
with the information we've just received from the county attorney, I would like to move that we table the item until our first meeting in April, pending any conversations with the sheriffs and with the deputies organization. Is that a good timetable?
Chair Allen, Supervisor Cano, I think at this time, the negotiations have not just stalled, they've failed. I don't know that another 2 months would be productive. So there's really no further movement expected, even given additional time.
Okay, I'll withdraw the motion. Thank you.
Chair Allen,
Supervisor Scott.
I'm sensing from what the deputy county attorney is saying and what he may be unwilling to say in public that this might be an executive session discussion in terms of where we are with the negotiations.
That's correct, Chair Allen, Supervisor Scott. We can go into executive session. There is some information that I could share beyond what's shareable here before proceeding with this item.
Do we need to make a motion to
Yes.
include this onto our executive session?
Just make a motion to go into executive session and we can go in now. Or we could go in at noon because it's only 16.
So I would like to make a motion that we add this to our executive session agenda so that we can then maybe do a couple of hearings. I think we have some people here for some public hearings prior to 12 o'clock executive session. So do I have a second on that motion?
Yep.
Seconded by Supervisor Hines. And then we will resume to this item. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Item passes to include into executive session agenda, 5-0. All right.
25.
Item 25, yes, and sorry for the confusion and conflation with item 28, which is different. Next.
It's a media star.
Grabbing that mic. Next item. We want to go to item number 9. This is for the formation of Vale Crossings Desert Vistas Community Facilities District. Supervisor Christie, would you like to move the item?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Could we have staff acknowledge or address at least the comments made by Ms. Lamb from the Vale Historical Society and what this is actually doing? Don't we have to address 9 and what is it, 13? 9 and 13 and the bifurcation there and explain what is actually happening?
Yes, so Chair and
Also, but just as using examples of other CFPs around state or the county.
sure thing, Chair Allen and Supervisor Christie. So before you today is the formation of a communities facilities district. This is a structure that enables financing of infrastructure and public infrastructure for projects. And in this case, it is the Vale Crossings Desert Vistas Community Facilities District. So it's about 610 acres. It is located at I-10 and Highway 83. So the geographic location is south and east of the area that Ms. Lamb spoke of. We understand the concerns around Old Vale and the historic post office. We've worked with the society previously and will continue to do so. We can follow up with Ms. Lamb after the meeting today. I think what she has pointed out and likely is causing the concern and comments you heard from her today is that as part of that project, even though geographically it is not in the immediate vicinity of the post office, there are intended improvements for this project along the frontage road. So the I-10 frontage road going up to the Colossal Cave traffic interchange and then down also to the Highway 83 and I-10 location where the property is. So the improvements will require ADOT review and approval, and will also require our county Department of Transportation to coordinate, right? So as the private property enters onto the frontage road, our Pima County Department of Transportation would be involved. So I think we're keenly aware of the concerns of historic preservation there. We can have our historic preservation staff participate in discussions along with Development Services and the Department of Transportation and ADOT to make sure that the concerns of the Vale Historic Preservation Society are met. You're correct, Supervisor Christie, that this is one of several community facility districts that have been formed in unincorporated Pima County. So this board has approved the Rocking K CFD, the Wildflower CFD, and most recently the Verano CFD. So this action is similar to others that have been taken by this board using the Community Facilities District tool. Yes, there are two items on the agenda, should be taken in tandem. Item number 9 basically is related to the development agreement. And then I believe item 13 is the calling of or the setting of the election for the formation of the CFD. So I hope I touched on all of the questions.
Madam Chair, Mr. DeBonis, thank you. That covers it pretty well. Just to reiterate, though, this item does not in any way negatively impact any of the historical elements that were the concerns arisen by Ms. Lamb, and that whatever future progress on this development goes, you have assured us that that your historical team will work hand in hand with the Vale Historical Society to make sure that all of the I's are dotted and T's are crossed to everybody's satisfaction. And again, this this CFD is normal. It's happened several times. It's part of the community paying for the infrastructure improvements rather than the general taxpayers.
Chair Allen, Supervisor Christie, I'm going to give you a collective yes on that. And I will follow up with Ms. Lamright to understand in greater detail the concerns, but I do believe that there is geographical separation between the project itself and the area of concern to the Vail Preservation Society such that this won't have an immediate impact. We're going to have plenty of opportunity for discussion and to make sure that the society is involved in the review process, or at least is aware of what's being proposed when, and can make sure that we avoid negative impacts and make sure that that's done to the satisfaction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Obviously, this has gone through the proper channels and planning processes accompanied for these kinds of projects. And with that, Madam Chair, I'd like to move that resolution number 2026-2, the formation of the Vail Crossings Desert Vistas Community Facilities District. Do we take them separately, or can we be approved?
And I think we do have to do them separately.
Yeah.
So seconded by Supervisor Allen. Other discussion? I do want to make a note. This is the fourth community facilities district that we have approved in the last year and some change. And, you know, I see that community facilities districts can help, right, with reducing some barriers to expanding our housing supply, and reducing barriers to build. But I am concerned about it being put on the backs of the home buyers. Typically, developers would shoulder the costs of neighborhood infrastructure themselves and then recoup those costs through home sales. Community facilities districts gives them the option to shift those costs completely onto homeowners, lower sale price, higher tax rate. In exchange, and while I have no changes that I'm going to put for this particular CFD, but I do want to request that for future CFDs that we look into integrating affordability, mixed housing, right? The lessons that we are learning and have learned through some of the housing studies that we have commissioned ourselves, and know that we need to be integrating into our housing supply throughout our community. These are unique, CFDs are unique opportunities to sort of negotiate for the needs of our community as we tackle the housing crisis. So yeah, that would be my. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Item passes 5-0.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Christie.
I would like to make the motion that that resolution number 2026 VCD VCFD1, Vail Crossings / Desert Vistas Community Facilities District be approved.
Second.
So just to note that we are now sitting as the new Vail Crossings Desert Vista Community Facilities District. The item was seconded by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? Supervisor Hines?
No, I was just going to vote for it.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Item passes 5-0. We have, I believe, a few people here for some hearings. We are going to go to, and we are now returning to sitting as the Board of Supervisors. So we are going to jump to, let me actually just double check because we have 6 minutes. Can we go a smidge over for executive session? Okay. We're going to try to hear 15, 16, and 17 before executive session. So item 15, which is a hearing for West Desert Oasis Trail Plan Amendment. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak on this item? Okay. Hearing none, I will move to close the public hearing and approve case number P25CA00004.
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Hines. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 16. So this item has an A, a B, and a C that we are going to consider separately. So item A, 16A, this is C09-01-39, Hardin et al., Oracle Road rezoning. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak to these items? Hearing none. Supervisor Scott, would you like to make the motion? This is
Yes,
in your
and
district.
Chair Allen, with regard to the three parts of item number 16, this came about because of updated flood control regulations. And I am pleased that the developer worked in partnership with our regional flood control district to take all the necessary measures to make sure that the property that is being proposed is going to be located entirely outside of what is known as the updated erosion hazard setback. So I think it's very commendable that they worked in partnership with our staff in both development services and the regional flood control district. So with regard to item A, I will move to 16A, I should say. I'll move to close the public hearing and approve staff's recommendation for denial of the closure of the rezoning.
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Hines. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Chair Allen,
Yes.
with regard to item 16B, I'll move that we close the public hearing and approve staff's recommendation for approval of the 5-year time extension subject to original and modified standard and special conditions.
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Hines. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
And then, Chair Allen, with regard to item 16C, I'll move that we close the public hearing and affirm staff's recommendation and the unanimous vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval subject to original and modified standard and special conditions.
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Hines. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Chair Allen.
We will now move to item 17. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak on this item? Oh, yes, sir, please. And if you could state your name for the record.
For the record, I am Majid Kabiri, and usually I call Doc by my friend and my student. Again, I would like to address a question about plat note waiver, which is the case 1200-160 Fairfield River State Lot 24. The question is that at that place there are more than 40 houses. All of them are subject to the same constraint and the constraint that which is imposed to them by the county. Now, my question is that Mr. Tim Ryan has asked for this waiver among almost more than 40 residents there. So is there anything specific about the property of Mr. Tim Ryan which is not shared with the other residents? Because again, if all of them or most of them, they have the same problem, at least in addition of Mr. Ryan, there must be some other people asking for this waiver. But in this case, we are seeing that the only waiver has been asked was by Mr. Ryan. The question is that why? Why, for example, his case is unique to him, which is not shared by his neighbors? Do you understand what was my question, or you need more explanation for that?
I believe I would actually pivot it to our Deputy Director of Development Services, Mr. Duskowski.
Chair Allen and board members. So I believe what the speaker is asking about is that this is a change that the property owner is asking for, and that is correct. And so when this is platted, 20, 25 years ago, there's areas that are dedicated as natural open space. And so in this case, the property owner is wishing to transition and take 790 square feet that's flatter and that they can develop. And then they're adding area that's more steep and sloped that would actually be more valuable for conservation. And so the important part for us was the trade-off of the exact amount of square footage so that we maintain the same amount of natural open space. And so that's why what you're seeing before us. And on page 6 is the map that generally shows the areas that are being added and removed. And you can see that it's a flatter area that is being taken out of the natural open space that provides probably less value from a vegetation perspective. And the area that they're proposing to include is much more steep and has a more vegetative content to it. So we see it as a benefit overall.
Thank you.
Again, if it is a case which is beneficial for most of the residents there.
Can you speak towards the microphone?
If, again, you know that it is beneficial for most of the residents there, some other residents, in addition of Mr. Rice, must also express their opinion. So before having those opinions, my impression is that we must not close this case and seek the input from the other residents there.
I will.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
The question is that there are many other people there, and if this case is beneficial for all of them or most of them, they must have input about this case rather than only one person.
Sure, I can answer that. Chair Allen and board members. So this is a unique request just for one lot. And so this property owner has gone through the process. So we're looking at only their property. There is no impact to the other residents in the subdivision or in the area in regards to impacts on their property, nor will it change any layout of their natural open space. And if there's each property owner would have been noticed in the process and have an opportunity to speak at the public hearing. So the notices were sent out to the neighboring property owners to participate and address any comments or concerns that they have. But there is no changes to any of the other residents' property. It's only the one.
But if you look at this picture, there are so many other residents here with the same area. So again, can we assume that the reason that they have not come here so far, that have been due to laziness or the lack of the information about, the lack of the full information about this case? Because there are a lot of technical jargon in this notice. Most of them, they do not understand that. Come here and you explain for them. I explain the benefit of this one. And if all of them or most of them agree with this, I can go ahead and approve that.
Chair Allen, supervisors, I can't speak for the reasons why residents who receive notice do not appear. I would assume it was multi-pronged. I would assume that the property owner worked with immediate neighbors in the area to kind of portray and lay out what they're proposing and working within their HOA. I'm sure they're going to need no notice. I'm sure they're going to require architectural review, approvals throughout the process if they're going to build anything in the area.
Chair Allen.
Supervisor Scott.
With regard to the point that Mr. Drzgowski just made, I would draw my colleague's attention to the memorandum to the board from Mr. Drzgowski dated January 13th, 2026 that's attached to this item. And he notes at the top of page 2 that the applicant provided a letter from the River Estates Homeowners Association, which granted approval subject to Pima County approval of the change in boundary for the natural open space easement. So it would appear from that the applicant is working in partnership with their homeowners association.
Let me say my own experience from HOA. Anytime I receive a letter from them, automatically I assume that again there is a fine. And most of the time it is correct. So how you are putting your argument based upon, again, a letter from HOA.
It's not a letter from the HOA, sir. It's the letter from our Deputy Development Services Director to the board, affirming that the department received that letter from the HOA. So that's being affirmed by our Development Services Director, Deputy Director.
So what is the role of HOA in this case?
It is a River Estates Homeowners Association.
No, what is its role? What is its function?
Their role is determined under state law in terms of the roles and responsibilities of homeowners associations. But what I'm saying is the applicant has affirmed to the county staff that he's been working with the homeowners association.
Is there a possibility that they can, that without agreeing on this case, we put our attention on another notice to the resident and describe the benefit of this case? Because again, when I read that, despite the fact that I'm not very ignorant, but again, most of it is technical and I do not understand anything from that.
What I would request of the county administrator is if she could ask staff to follow up with our constituent so that they can provide him whatever responses to specific questions he might have.
Thank you. So administration are available to work with you to answer some of the specific questions that you have. And it is also my understanding, if I'm not speaking out of turn in this, is that if there are other property owners who wish to do sort of comparable items, that they too could come to Development Services and do an exchange that is similar to this and go through the similar process that this owner did.
Chair Allen, board members, you are correct. And we would look at each case specific to the site-specific conditions. So where there's value and a trade-off, we can explore those options. The key for us is, a vigorous notice process. In this case, we sent out 89 notices, everyone in the subdivision, and we also went out 300 feet from the boundary of the site and sent out notices to everybody to ensure that there was proper notice and that anyone who could be or potentially be adverse impacted would have an opportunity to reach out to staff or appear to speak.
Can we postpone the final decision about this case until I formally address my question to you and formally receive answer from you?
I'm sorry, the question is whether we would hold.
We approve it or not. We hold it, and then that I formally send you my question to you, and you formally send me the answer. And after that, if my answer was not approved by you, go ahead and approve this case or reject that.
Yeah, I think that's a determination for the board, sir, and we will get to that determination as the hearing proceeds. But I know that there's another speaker that I would anticipate the chair would be calling on before the board takes any action.
So can I send my question to you before that, before your final decision? After you receive the input of the other guy?
That would be a decision for the board.
And that you are the board.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But we're not there yet.
Okay. For your hearing. Thank you, sir. Are there others who wish to speak to this item? Oh. And I'll note if you'll be given a yellow card to fill out too after your comments.
Perfect. Hello, all the board members. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Tim Ryan. I am the one requesting this land swap allocation. I'm a native Tucsonan here, live in District 1. I'm a licensed professional engineer. I've been working here as a professional engineer for about 15 years. Through my career experience, I've learned the proper ways to work with development services, to go through processes like this, seeing that it is a unique case here. It is a pretty simple request. We have one area in our backyard that is relatively flat, one area that's on a cliff. The flat developable area is in that NUOS area, the natural undisturbed open space area, and we want to move that to the more cliffy area that is also a hillside development zone that is additionally hard to develop on there as well. So we're just looking to do a land swap request, same square footage, so we can develop in that flat area back there. It maintains that overall original NUOS area. And with that, just thank you for your time today in exploring this request for us. Any questions?
Chair Allen.
Questions? Supervisor Scott?
No questions, but I wanted to draw my colleagues' attention to the agenda item report and look at the section that's labeled conclusion. And it says the reallocation of the 790 square feet of natural undisturbed open space will be an even exchange that will maintain the requirements designated by the plat. Would also draw my colleagues' attention to the previously mentioned memorandum from Mr. Drzgowski to the board with the one condition, which is that we revegetate land, that the revegetated land added to the natural undisturbed open space easement. So with that conclusion and those conditions in mind, I will move that we close the public hearing and affirm staff's recommendations subject to the stated condition.
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Hines. Any discussion from Board of Supervisors? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Chair Allen. And then, Ms. Lesher, if I could just ask if whatever staff you designate could follow up with the gentleman who had expressed concerns. Thank you.
Also, mention that around professional engineers make it good here. And in addition of that, around
Great. Thank you. Yeah, and staff will follow up with you. And with that, we are going to break for executive session. Oh, and I'd like to make the motion that we break for executive session. Seconded by Supervisor Hines. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes 5-0.